So good morning. My name is Stephanie Savage, and I'm the Alumni Engagement Coordinator here at Lethbridge College. We have an exciting lineup of alumni here today, and I'm excited to introduce you to them in just a few minutes. Before I begin, I just want to take a quick moment to acknowledge that Lethbridge College is located on traditional Blackfoot territory, and that's important for our institution to honor the land and that culture. So I just wanted to make sure that that was done first. I also wanted to just go over a few housekeeping items. Participants, you will all be muted to ensure the panelists can answer without any interruptions. So we had some questions that were submitted, and we will do our best to get through them all. But if we don't get to your questions, or if you have any that aren't addressed in the chat, I'll make sure we send you an email after with some answers to those questions. There's also a short webinar or post survey after the webinar that you'll get. It'll only take 2 or 3 minutes, so if you don't mind just filling that out, it'll make sure that we're meeting your needs better in the future. So now we can get to the people you really came to hear from. So joining me today are 4 incredible individuals who all got their starts at Lethbridge College and have used that as a foundation to cultivate impressive careers for themselves. And we have a lot to get to, so I'm just going to turn it over to our panelists for some brief introductions. So Quinn, why don't you start us off?
Sure. Thank you again for having me today. My name is Quinn Campbell. I'm a videographer here at Global Lethbridge. I've been doing this for 12 years, and not only am I a Lethbridge College alum, I did the journalism program there. I worked for the college for a year, actually got my start in the industry, working in the AV department, filming educational videos before I started at Global Lethbridge, and now I'm here, and my part-time gig is I raise cattle with my dad. So news during the day and farming in the evenings.
Great. All right. Well, thank you, Quinn. Josh, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, Stephanie, and thanks for having me. My name is Joshua Daychief, or Josh Daychief, whatever you prefer. I am the CEO of a biotechnology company out here in Raymond, Alberta. We're a family-owned business. We've actually been in operation for 20 years now, but really haven't done much in terms of rapid growth until the last 5 or 6 years. So yeah, we love visitors. If you're interested in what we talk about today, we'd love to have you come out here. But my career journey has been short, but the journey of the business has been quite long. So I have lots to share with you guys.
Great. Thank you, Josh. Matt, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Thanks, Steph, for having me. So my name is Matt PIGEAU. I graduated from the licensed practical nursing program here at the college in 2014. I was very fortunate to get on into a full-time permanent at the hospital on a busy medicine floor, working with strokes and a lot of other things. And yeah, I just came full circle here. I came back to the college. I'm going to be clinical instructing here and starting to help some other young nurses. And yeah, it's been quite the experience.
Great. Thank you, Matt. And Kaylee, why don't you finish us off?
Thank you, Stephanie, and hello, everyone. So my name is Kaylee Bogle, and I currently work at Lethbridge College in the Be Fit for Life Center as the program administrator. I went to Lethbridge College first for exercise science, where I got my personal training group exercise leader certifications. And then I continued with my education in business and got a degree in management, as I wanted to expand on what I've learned in exercise science and apply it more in the workplace. So I'm excited to be here and look forward to hearing from the other panelists as well as sharing my insights.
Great. Well, thank you all. I'm really excited to have you today. As I mentioned before, we have a lot of questions that people were interested in, so we'll just jump in. So you briefly touched on it, but I'd love to hear a little bit more deeply about your personal career journeys, why you decided to go into what you did, kind of what led you there. And Kaylee, since you just finished, why don't you start us off with a little more depth into your personal career journey?
Sure. Okay. So throughout my, 6 years of school, each semester I kind of worked a different job. So after I got my personal training and group exercise certifications, I started applying those while I continued going to school for business so I could work on those skills and developing those. Once I got further into business and with different semesters came different things that I wanted to explore. So then I started doing some stuff with nutrition, local businesses in Lethbridge, as well as doing some stuff with marketing, and later got into a little bit of the human resources with family ties, where I felt that this wasn't enough and it wasn't exactly filling my cup to the full potential, and I was missing that piece of the fitness. So then I had a part-time job doing some of the kind of managing a fitness center and leading professionals, as well as teaching my own exercise classes. And that I felt was a good combination. So then I worked through that, and then eventually came back to Lethbridge College, where I was able to work into the position that I currently have. And it has a mixture of kind of everything with the marketing piece, management piece, a little bit of onboarding of employees, and then also instructing and delivering the fitness stuff. So I found that was a perfect fit for me and my career today.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you, Kaylee. And Quinn, I know that you come from an agriculture background. So why did you decide to get into the journalism world as opposed to staying within that agriculture field?
Well, I knew that I was really lucky in a sense that growing up, my family was always really into current affairs. Very business. My dad, he's ran his own business, been an entrepreneur his whole life. And so I was raised in a very busy household where the one time we ever sat down as a family was to eat dinner, and we'd always watch the news. And so the news was always something that was really incorporated in my upbringing. And current events is something I've always found interesting. I like to be in the know. And so for me, when I finished high school and was thinking of careers, I knew I wanted to do something that got me out into the community. I'm a chatty person. I'm social. I like to get out and see and experience new things. And so I did some research, and news just seemed to be a real natural fit. The thing that I really, really, really love about my job is that I often get to cross my passions. I get to cover agriculture stories on a regular basis, and having an agriculture background definitely makes some of those interviews a little easier when I know what an acre is and I know certain agriculture terms that carry on. But I really, as passionate as I am about agriculture, I'm just as passionate about news. And so it was a natural fit for me. Going to Lethbridge College was great because I'm originally from Staveley, so it wasn't too far from home. And it was really interesting just kind of getting a start at the college as well. Obviously, they were really great about encouraging me. I was there for a contract position. I did my internship here at Global Lethbridge, and I was working at the college, and they were in a position where they needed someone who could start right away. And it was a technical job. I started as a camera operator and editor with Global Lethbridge, and I have been working my way up. I started running studio cameras and then started editing, and then a reporter called in sick one day and we were short-staffed, and so they were like, get on TV, and then I started reporting, and that led to anchoring, producing, and now I essentially fill in on a regular basis for my boss, Liam Nixon. So that has been sort of my global path. And then about 3-4 years into my career at Global Lethbridge, I had an opportunity that came up to work at a local radio station. So I was a co-host at Country 95, and I co-hosted their morning show for 4 years. While also working at Global Lethbridge, I was very fortunate that I was able to not have to choose. I could do both. I was a bit of a shell of a human there for a little while and not much of a social life, but I was really lucky. I had 2 jobs that were super, super fulfilling. After 4 years, I got a little burnt out doing all of that, plus having cows. And so I decided that I needed to step back a bit. And so just at Global now and running cows. So it's been an advantage that I haven't had to leave the station that I started at, and yet I have faced so many new challenges. I've had so many new opportunities without having to leave Lethbridge, which was really important for me because it is so close to my family farm.
Amazing. Thank you. And Matt, you took kind of an interesting journey to get where you are today. You came back as a mature student, and you had a whole career before you started in what you're doing now. Do you want to speak a little bit about that?
Sure. I don't know if I had a career before it. I was kind of doing just about everything, fast food, financial work, construction, basically just living life, right? I had 2 kids at the time, and then I ended up getting pretty sick when I was about 27. I spent a bit of time in the hospital, and I came out and started kind of doing the grind again and realized that that's not what I wanted to do. And so me and my wife kind of just sat down one day and we looked at each other and we said, you know, what about school? And we figured nursing, we'd give it a shot, just given the being sick the last little bit. I had a lot of interactions with nursing, and it just felt like a fit for me. You know, I love to chat. I'm very good with people. And so we dove into the nursing program, and it took me a little bit longer than the 2 years to do it, just with my medical stuff going on. The college was wonderful. The first year they kind of helped me slow roll through things and upgrade and kind of get to where I needed to be. And then I started in my second year, I started the program, and it was kind of, a mad rush from there. It's all kind of a blur, it goes pretty quick when you're in it. And then, 2 years after that, I got into the hospital, and it's kind of no looking back now. Lots and lots going on there. Every day is learning, very, very fortunate for the college and what they've done for me. I always say they changed my life. And I mean, I had a part to play in it, but without the college, I don't think I'd be doing what I'm doing.
Thank you. And I'm sure we are all interested to hear how your life at the hospital has changed with the whole COVID thing. And I'm excited to get to that later. Sure. Josh, you have a pretty interesting career journey in that you stepped into a family business, but had to pretty much change the way it worked and make some advancements. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, I'm 33. So you'd think my career journey could have been 10 or 12 years in the making, but that's not the case. I actually didn't know 100% what I wanted to do with my life until I was about 27 years old, which was only 6 years ago. I mean, talk about stressing your mom or your parents out, but I think I've seen that kind of be the case with some people I know as well, especially guys I know tend to take a little longer to figure out what they want to do. But out of high school, I actually went to the multimedia program at the college, and I realized pretty quickly it wasn't for me. So I figured I'd go out, make some money, live on my own. I actually worked in the trades, doing granite countertops for 5 years, which now that I look at it, it's probably one of the best things I could have ever done. I have nothing but respect for the people who work in trades, but I always knew that I wanted to do more, make more, be in control of my own destiny. I found that the work was pretty taxing on my body. There was a lot of long hours, and the pay didn't necessarily reflect that. So I did what a lot of other people would do in their 20s, and I went back to school. My mom at the time had a business that was doing some interesting research on water remediation. And I was always helping out every summer for as long as I can remember being a kid. Like I mentioned, it's been 20 years now the business has been in operation. It was a very small but exciting business in terms of potential. And to my mom's credit, she kept a dream afloat in times when it really should have been shut down. So anyways, I went back to school. I ended up taking the environmental assessment and restoration program at the college. And I loved it. Just the hands-on approach, the group projects, the teachers involved. And then obviously the science piece of what was in that program really fit in with what the business had going on for many years. So it seemed like a no-brainer for me. Fast forward a few years, and I decided to fully commit myself to the business. We went from barely making enough sales to pay me for 6 months to a year. And then we moved into agriculture, where things really exploded. We started producing a product that is more of a probiotic for soil and crop health. And, now we have multiple employees. We have our own software for growing the bacteria, and we've built a pretty large network of dealers producing our products. It's always good to look back. In the last 5 years, we went from treating about 55 acres of peas to treating about 400,000 acres of treated crops in Western Canada. So, when I look back at it, I mentioned it before, my career journey has been short. It's been very stressful, but also very exciting and very rewarding. I do feel like I have the equivalent of 20 years experience under my belt, and probably more gray hair than a 33-year-old should have. That's my journey.
Well, thank you so much. All of you kind of touched on something that I just wanted to hit upon, is that none of you took a straight line to where you're at today. You all kind of had different journeys you took throughout, had started one thing, started something else. And so I think it's really interesting to see how successful all four of you are, knowing that none of your journeys were a straight line. So thank you so much for sharing that. I'd love to hear from you guys what you think people entering the workforce right now are sort of facing in your own personal industries. So obviously every one of you will have a different opinion on that, but from what you're seeing, what are people that are looking to enter your industry facing. So why don't we start with Josh, since you were the last one we heard from?
Tips for entering the work world. I mean, as an employer, I'm typically and we are hiring, we're growing really fast. To be honest, we're a unique situation just because of the exponential growth and how fast it's happening. So the personality traits we're looking for in a company, we're always looking for someone to fill a void or to make us better or more efficient. And the only people that are really truly going to do that are the ones that take complete ownership in their job and go the extra mile and make sure the job is better than what, was outlined in the job posting. I would say keep a high standard for yourself as an employee and try to go beyond that. It's required for, any new positions that come up in our company. We absolutely need that.
Amazing. Matt, what about you? You're now entering a clinical instructor role. So what kind of tips do you have for those people entering the workforce?
It's really tough right now with nursing, to be honest with you. Between cuts and COVID, sites and places go from not needing staff to just needing staff like crazy. So if I could give any advice to new grads, is that just to try and stay positive. Nursing is a skill you're going to have for life, no matter what happens. It's something you'll know how to do, so just try to remember that during the bad times, that there will be good times again, and just keep your head up and keep looking,
Quinn, you said it, kind of considered essential during this. So what about you? What kind of tips do you have for people?
I think one of the biggest things is just being adaptable. You're always going into situations that are changing. Sometimes you know what you're getting yourself into, sometimes you don't. And so being able to kind of roll with it, be organized. Organized is key, especially when you're trying to keep track of facts and important information, when you're trying to get that out to the public. And the other thing is this industry is always changing and evolving. Global Lethbridge, when I started 12 years ago to Global Lethbridge now, is totally different. There was about 30 staff when I started, and there is now 7 of us. We've had a lot of layoffs. We've been through a lot of changes. And one thing that is always changing is technology. Everything is always moving towards an online basis. And so being willing to tackle new technology, learn new things, and always be willing to, even if it's a little bit intimidating, give it a try. It really is the way of the future for news. I really do believe that down the road, you won't sit down and turn your TV on at 6 o'clock and watch the evening news. I think that is something that you will see gone. It will be a pay-per-service type thing. You will stream it on your phone rather than get it over the air. So I think being able to access all different types of technology, learn quickly, be willing to try new things, and just really be adaptable is one of the best things you can do if you're trying to get into any type of communication industry.
Definitely. And then Kaylee, for you, I know largely what you guys do is all based on individuals and being in person. So for you guys, what kind of struggles are you facing with anybody hoping to get into that right now?
Right. So yeah, with any business right now, it's really important to pivot and to figure out how can we still serve our customers. So today, when people are applying for jobs, or maybe you have a job already or you want to expand, definitely keep looking and keep applying yourself. And if you're not getting a job right now just due to the times, that's a perfect opportunity right now for our instructors to work on certifications or build those necessary skills. Or lots of them right now, they're doing online fitness instruction just to continue with their passions, and that's really working for them. We do a lot with schools as well in the community, so we're still providing resources, making resources that work for them. That's free content that parents and community members can use now. And we're definitely okay to provide that free content, knowing that we are building that relationship, and it's what people need right now. Like, not only is it going to benefit community members physically, but also mentally. Right now, it's kind of a time where most people, I guess it's okay to say, something in their life has changed. So just to have that routine and to be able to provide something is worth a lot. So definitely take the time to not get hard on yourself, but just realize that it's just a season and we'll all get through this. Everyone's working through it. So just take that time to work on your skills.
Amazing. Well, thank you guys all for sharing that. I'm glad that you guys are all doing well in what you're currently doing and you've found ways to adapt. So I guess that brings us to the next question someone submitted, which was, how has your job specifically been affected by the COVID pandemic? And I think that we're all super interested to hear from Matt. So why don't you take that and start there, Matt?
So, COVID right now, it's kind of tricky in Lethbridge, right? Because we've been very fortunate. We don't have a ton of cases, and it's mostly just been about taking precautions. So, jobs around the hospital have changed in the sense that we're gowning up a lot more. We're doing a lot more personal protective equipment. But right now, the hardest part is just kind of waiting for everything. Like my unit was closed for a few weeks while we waited to see if we would need the extra space. So I got a lot of insight into the hospital. I managed to float to different floors to work throughout the last couple of weeks, probably about 6 weeks or so. And, everybody doesn't really know what to think. Some people think one, some people think another way. I think the big thing for everybody right now is just staying safe, right? The uncertainty and will they stay safe through it and their family, and what will the future bring, right? So like I said, we're very fortunate in Lethbridge because life hasn't changed that much, but the potential is there.
And Quinn, you kind of touched on it a little bit as well on how things have changed for you guys, but I can imagine you've had to adjust everything you do. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So the dealing with COVID has been interesting. As a newsroom, it's been interesting to try navigate because we have been working through this entire situation. And so we've tried to have as many reporters as we can work from home. Like I touched about the technology, it truly is amazing what we're capable of doing. We have reporters who are filing stories from the field. I feel like if you're a viewer and you're watching from home, you would never know that they weren't in our station putting their story together. They're able to edit remotely on laptops, all that type of thing. So that's been a big adjustment for us. I think sometimes, you get used to coming into the office, bouncing ideas off of each other. So I know that's been a bit of a challenge for some of the reporters who are having to work from home. The other thing is just to gather news, a lot of the times you have to go out into the public, and you're going out into the public at a time where a lot of people are not wanting to go out. And so we've definitely taken safety measures to make sure that when we are going out, we're able to social distance and keep everyone safe, lots of disinfecting and all that type of thing. But you see people's behaviors change, and that's definitely something that I have found really interesting is you have those people who, like Matt was saying, some find it, very serious, others, they don't find it as serious. And so trying to balance stories where you're telling all sides of that, people who do feel that it's a crisis and people who feel that it's an overreaction. And so trying to balance that all the time has been really challenging. In news, you're always trying to tell both sides of the story. And so sometimes there's only one side to tell, but lots of times you have very different viewpoints. And so it can be tricky sometimes when you are trying to find one voice that represents a side of an argument that's on such a global scale. So I feel like we've been navigating that fairly well. But there's definitely, for me, I'm always looking to try do stories that aren't COVID related because I feel like you can only talk about it so much before I feel like I do this, lose my breath a little bit every time someone says COVID right now. So you do try to find those other stories that are important in the community. After this, I'm going out to do a story about a man who rides a buffalo. So you just never know. You have to keep it fresh. So
amazing. And Josh, what about you? Have you found you've had to adjust the way you guys do things day to day?
A little bit, but not really. I think we're really fortunate, obviously, being a business that is in agriculture. We're kind of deemed essential. I don't think our sales have really been hurt too bad with it, but at the beginning it was more of just not knowing, what it could be or what it is really. There's a lot of information coming at you from different avenues. And so we shut down the office for a bit. People work from home, and we were able to do that pretty efficiently, but we're not a place where, we have a ton of people in our office visiting all the time. We're more working remotely with our dealers anyways out of the office. So, we haven't been affected too much. We're still trying to, when we do get those visitors and people coming to pick up product and stuff, we do have the distancing thing and we're trying to just be safe. But yeah, I don't think we were as affected as other businesses may have been.
Mm-hmm. I guess it's nice when you're already operating on sort of a online or virtual basis, like meetings with your donors. You work across Canada, and I can't imagine you flying every day to Vancouver.
No. We had an employee though who was, because we have these brew facilities, and we had an employee who was planning on flying all these different locations across Western Canada, but instead he rented a vehicle and he drove the entire time. So it was 3 weeks of driving, setting people up. That was a big adjustment, obviously, for him. Very stressful time, not knowing where the COVID has affected, one area more than the other. Obviously he wanted to be safe, the hotels and stuff he was staying at. It was crazy, probably more for him than it was for us, but we got through it. He's back, and he doesn't have the virus, so we're happy about that. And but yeah, I'd say other than that, we haven't been affected too much.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. And for you, Kaylee, I know that everything you guys do kind of got flipped on its head, and you spoke a little bit about that, but is there anything else that you think has been affected during this time with you guys?
Yeah, so just to further elaborate on that, so we are under the Post-Secondary Institute, and Be Fit for Life Center falls under corporate and continuing education. So we're really doing our due diligence to make sure our students are safe. So we work with people who are more vulnerable as well, such as working with the Alberta Cancer and Exercise Group, so bringing on people who are cancer survivors, doing different programming with them, or even working with the Ability Resource Program. It's just huge to make sure that they're safe. Also keeping our instructors safe. So we do have other locations that we're going into, not only schools, but we also visit the corrections facility for yoga. And it's a service that we provide that's necessary, but is also not necessary for the time being because safety is a priority. So we just had to adapt, and we had an instructor do a couple different recordings for yoga, and then we provide all of our other things that we can online, and then working on proposals of what that's going to look like for students in the fall to make sure that they're still getting the physical activity and mental health benefits from this, but just can access it in their own homes and benefit that way.
Amazing. Thank you guys all. We talked, I guess everyone kind of touched upon I'll call them soft skills needed to kind of like pivot in this moment. So we often hear soft skills versus hard skills. Hard skills are your like tangible skills, like how to use a wrench. Soft skills are more of that, how do you speak to someone who you're not comfortable with? So how did post-secondary prepare you with those soft skills to take a situation that what you're currently in, and not have that kind of be defeating to you? So Kaylee, why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, thank you. So with post-secondary, not only being a student, I was a student athlete. So managing different schedules of workouts and training on top of full-time studies, and then typically a part-time job as I really wanted to apply what I was learning. So just figuring out a way that was best to prioritize all my tasks and to group tasks so I could be most efficient. So that's what I do in my current job today. So just having that dedication and the drive and the goals to continue to serve people and continue to do my best so I feel good at the end of the day too. So the busy world and life that way has shaped the way I am in the workplace, and I just continue with that goal-driven sight with pretty much all of our projects. It's just like I like to see it from start to end, and that's how we work through it.
Amazing. And Quinn, for you guys, I know that soft skills is something that's always talked about in the communications and broadcast world because it pretty much governs a lot of what you do. So how did post-secondary kind of set you up with those skills to go into your career?
I think when you're working in news, if you choose a role where you are out in the community talking to people, I think a lot of people assume you have to be this like outgoing social person who, is always really chatty. But I have so many coworkers that are total introverts who that is not something that they enjoy. Going and interviewing strangers all the time sometimes gives them a bit of anxiety. But I think that when I was in school, they made it very clear that, you're a storyteller. And so having those skills where you pay attention to details, You're a good listener. You can be organized to make sure that you have all of the information laid out that you need. But the biggest thing in this industry is definitely being able to manage your time. Time management is critical. I feel like in a lot of jobs, sometimes you'll have a week or a month to work on a project where we're working on things that are filed every single day. So there is definitely advantages where I have gratification at the end of my workday every day. My story is finished and it's done. And I get to go home and turn my brain off, and then I have a whole new thing that I'm focused on the next day. But being able to stay organized and stay focused is really, I think, key. I think there's other soft skills that develop once you've actually, they talk about them in school, but once you're working and you're able to apply them, like the conversation skills, being able to read people, that type of thing definitely comes. But there are certain things that they tell you in school, and they tell you for a reason, because they really are critical things that you need. And time management is definitely something that I left college a lot better at than I started.
Perfect. And for Josh, I have had the pleasure of meeting with you in person, and I will have to say Josh has some of the best communication skills I've ever seen.
So Josh, please, I wouldn't say that.
Oh, I would.
Okay.
So is this something that you think post-secondary helped with, or did you think this is something your family has instilled in you, or where does that come from in you?
I would say both. I would say for me personally, the soft skills I took from college probably benefited me more than the hard skills and stuff that I learned. I mean, you forget a lot of the textbook stuff, right? But for me, honestly, the biggest thing was the group projects that we did in school. This program has a lot of them. And I didn't really know this at the time, but I really enjoyed the group projects. And I'm sure, many of you who have participated in group projects have really noticed one thing. There's certain individuals that can really bring a group project up, and there's a lot of individuals that can really bring it down. And what I found was that I was really good at facilitating, delegating, and getting people excited about the project. And I also loved presenting the group projects to the class, which wasn't necessarily everyone's favorite job. So now, fast forward to my career, my job is to facilitate, to delegate, and speak on behalf of the company. Those skills that I took from college really, really helped me. But now as I look at it from an employer standpoint, you always hear employers say, I would take the stuff you can't teach, the intangibles over the schooling or education. You can always teach someone to do the job. And I get where they're coming from, trying to put emphasis on the fact that, intangibles are important, but there's zero value to me as an employer if you're great at communicating and great at showing up on time. If I have to teach you how to do your job and spend, days and months teaching you how to be efficient at your job, I'm hiring you because I believe you're capable and better at the job than I am. So I think, both skills are really important. And especially, it obviously changes from industry to industry. But for me, the soft skills that I took from college really, really helped me in my career and with this business.
Great. And Matt, for you, I guess the job you do is a very large mix of hard and soft skills, because you have to know how to do the physical component of your job, but also you have to know how to be with people. So how did the program prepare you for that side of things?
Yeah, the best thing I probably took from the program was just like how to be flexible. I tell a lot of students sometimes they'll be coming to clinicals and things like that where they're just stressed out by things that a teacher has done or asked them to do, or and I just try to remind them that, at the end of the day, take it as a learning experience, right? Like flexibility is something, like I think Quinn touched on it, but you're really going to need in a lot of these kind of careers, especially nursing, because you just never know what's going to happen, right? In the college, I think in 2 years, they have a very difficult job trying to prepare you for all the soft skills that you actually need. Because again, I think Josh touched on it too, is it's really hard to teach soft skills, right? Mm-hmm. And it's something you kind of learn as you go. So I think the college, looking back on it, when I started taking students, I really appreciated all of the different techniques and approaches the college kind of gave and took with us, because it really did help me kind of just learn to be more flexible. And, the soft skills are really tough with nursing too, because when you get into nursing, you'll find that people put a very large amount of trust into you, just inherently with what you do, and they have their health that they're worried about. So, like I said, there'll be a lot of trust in nurses and things like that. So the soft skills are something that are very important, right?
That's amazing. And I think that's something that post-secondary is really good at. And I'm not saying that just Lethbridge College is good at. I think post-secondary in general is really good at teaching those soft skills that are hard to get other places. Because when in your normal life are you going to ever have to do a group project that then you present to your classmates, right? So some of those skills that you guys have gained through your programs are really important. And those are the things I think that are big takeaways from post-secondary. So thank you all for sharing that. I'd love to jump into some individual questions that we have for each of you, and then maybe backtrack into some of the other pieces that talk more about like where you see things going in the future. So Quinn, one of the questions someone had is that news media has had to fit within this new world. And what are some of the positive things that you've seen change with this?
I think I kind of touched a little bit on the technology. I mean, it's amazing when given a challenge to see what can be innovated and created and put to good use. I think one of the biggest things I have personally witnessed just over my career is the shift to an online type market. I come to the college every now and then and I talk to students, and one of the questions I ask them is how many of them have cable, and it's none of them. And that's how we make our money as a TV station. So I often find it pretty interesting that they want to go into an industry that none of them support because they're all watching it on their cell phones. But that's the reality. And so I think that I'm really lucky that I work for a company that has kind of been one of the forward-thinking companies where they've really been trying to get on an app and be able to stream. You can stream global news on your phone now, and we're one of the first stations to do that. So technology has really taken off. When I went into journalism, one of the things I loved about it was that you could tell stories, but you didn't have to be this, perfect grammar, have this unbelievable wealth of knowledge for words and all that type of thing. You could tell a great story because you were telling it to an average audience. And as I have been working in the industry, that has really evolved to now we put all of our stories online. So every story that I write for television, I write a second version of that for web so that you can go to our website. You don't have to watch the video, you can read it. So I've really had to learn to adapt to that because that wasn't necessarily something that I did in college. And one thing I give Lethbridge College a lot of credit for is we have practicum students who come from all over Canada from different post-secondary schools. And one thing that students at Lethbridge College bring to the table is they have experience in radio, they have experience in television, they have experience in writing for web. And I think as our industry evolves and changes, that is something that every person who comes out of school and wants to be a television reporter is also going to be an online reporter for a website. So those are skills that it's so important to hone in on and just, be a part of the change instead of fighting it, master it.
Amazing. Thank you. That's so interesting. So Kaylee, someone kind of wanted to touch on how you turned your passion into a career. So how important was it for you to incorporate both your passion and business into what you're doing today?
Right. So similar to Quinn, I also grew up on a farm, and I had those values instilled in me that hard work also has some fun to it. So I always had that vision that I'm going to chase after what really speaks to me. And that's just how I was raised. So I think it's huge. Like at the end of the day, if you don't feel fulfilled, change that direction or change that path to get to where you want to be. So for me, it was fitness, and potentially a couple years down the road, it might not be, but it is just having the opportunity to positively influence people and know that I'm doing good for others. That's what fills my cup at the end of the day. So it could vary a little bit, but right now it's working for me and I feel fulfilled every day. So I just encourage everyone to keep reaching for those skills and practicing what works for them at the time, and then building connections that way. You can never go wrong with any job experience. You always learn something, even if it's like not your cup of tea at the time, but definitely just keep going and pursuing those dreams and goals.
Amazing. Thank you. And Josh, so for you, you took the company that you are currently with and you expanded it incredibly. So what was that process like? Because I can imagine that was largely foreign to you, not really having been in a position to expand a company globally or internationally or anything like that. So what was that like for you?
Well, it's a lot of learning. It's not like I've done this 5 or 10 different times in my lifetime. So all I could say is that, our success wouldn't be possible without the team we have assembled. It's seriously unreal to see our employees take ownership in the direction of this business and push, the owners forward every day. We found out very quickly that relationships are everything in business. And, while we started to build a legitimate business in remediating lakes and ponds, in 2016, we had the opportunity to start doing research on bacteria for agriculture. We did this in partnership with a scientist and a supplier who, honestly, we've become friends with over the last 2 decades. That relationship and trust developed into a partnership. We became great at conducting research projects and moving product, while our scientist was, stayed in his avenue of creating a product that would genuinely work in the field. For us, there seemed to be, as soon as we moved into agriculture, there was a huge market for sustainable farming practices, as farmers were looking at more efficient, healthy options for producing food and lowering their input costs. So it just snowballed. It seemed like the market was ready for us, and it was almost just out of desperation, keeping our heads above water. So I mentioned before that, our team members are wearing multiple hats. They still are. We're all, I'm doing some operations stuff. Our operations guys doing some sales stuff. Our sales guys are doing some marketing stuff. It's amazing for us. It's been a team, and right now we're in a really interesting an exciting position in the fact that our supplier actually wants us to be a successor. So we're looking at purchasing out our supplier over the next 5 years or so. And that wouldn't be possible if we didn't build that relationship with him. So again, I would love to sit here and take all the credit for everything that's happened, but I think it's just been a complete team effort from everyone, from, the owners down to our employees who take, full ownership in their job.
That's amazing. Thank you. And then Matt, for you, someone was interested to know how it felt and why you decided to enter a largely female-dominated profession and how that's affected your career.
I don't know if it's really affected my career too much, to be honest with you. But working with largely females has been, great, to be honest with you. It's good and bad with men and women, obviously, but, I go to work every day and I have all these ladies looking out for me if I'm about to do something dumb with my wife, I've got teenage daughters at home too, so working with some 21-year-old nurses really gives me some insight. And it's, for the most part, it's been absolutely wonderful. I think in about 6 years, I've had maybe 1 or 2 kind of little snarky comments about maybe getting my job because I was a man, but for the most part, it's been really nothing. Like I said, we have a lot of fun. If anything, I find out a little bit too much about you ladies.
Amazing. Well, yeah. Don't give away our secrets, Matt.
You don't want to know them.
And then follow up, they wanted to know why you chose LPN as opposed to the RN route.
Well, I chose the LPN because I wasn't quite sure if nursing was the direction I wanted to go. It's a 2-year course, and sick, money, and then I had 2 kids, I had a wife at home, and I needed to kind of get in the working world. So I took the LPN course, and I haven't looked back. Like I said, it was the best choice I made, hands down, especially in regards to nursing right now. The sad reality is that we get paid less, and they're looking to cut money. So if anyone's going to keep a job right now, it'll probably be an LPN for the most part. So we just hold our breath and wait to see what the world looks like. But LPN was a very good choice.
Great. Kaylee and Josh, I know you both have an athletic background, and someone wants to know how did what you did in athletics kind of help with what you do now? Is there any lessons that you keep with you? So Josh, why don't we start with you?
I guess the answer is yes, absolutely. Especially in the business. Our entire family has really been obsessed with sports. Probably me more than anyone since I can remember. But it was always the team sports that I loved the most: baseball, hockey, basketball, volleyball. I played a couple years of volleyball at the college, and to me, there's nothing better than going to battle with your friends, all of whom have a common goal, which is to win and succeed. I felt like I was always put into some sort of leadership role, no matter what sport it was, and it wasn't always because I was the best on the team or the most talented, but I always thought I was good at lifting up my teammates, getting them pumped up and ready to play, and getting them to another level. And if you think about it, starting and running a business is just like picking a team in any sport. A team's success starts with its culture. When you build a culture in a business, you choose individuals to buy into that culture. I've been on some seriously bad sports teams, and I've been on some really good sports teams too. And the good ones, the talented ones, haven't always been the winning teams. Obviously certain talent is needed to do certain jobs, but if you can create a culture and get everyone to buy into your dream and your common goal, you can have ordinary teams or the ones who are less talented do incredible things. And I think that translates to business as well. It's all about culture for us. For me, there's not much difference between being on the court or the field with my teammates and being in the office with my team every day.
Wow. That was amazing. I feel like I was just watching like a Denzel Washington sports film.
Yeah.
That was amazing. And Kaylee, you are a very talented runner. And for everyone else, Kaylee still holds some records here at the college for some fast times. So Kaylee, do you want to talk a little bit about what lessons you've taken from athletics?
Sure, yeah. So I always played sports growing up and just being active out on the farm and in the yard. So I played a lot of team sports, so like basketball and volleyball in high school. When I got to college, I felt, okay, I really need to focus on my studies and I don't have time for sports or anything, and this is going to be my priority, is just school. And when I got there, already day 2, I'm like, something is missing. I need sports. So I joined the running team, and it was the best decision that I made. It's an individual sport, so I learned a ton about myself, but I made the best friends there. And that was just kind of my support system throughout. And yeah, like Josh was saying, it is so much like your work team as well. So I always kind of had the idea of like on the court or in the field, like make your teammates look good. And that's similar to the workplace. Like you want to support each other and make each other look good in the workplace by being there for each other. So I learned a lot about dedication and that drive and stuff. And just a point that I thought about just to everyone who's watching, you being here on this call says a lot about your dedication and your drive to want to do better, want to learn more. So that's huge. Yeah, that's pretty much all I want to say right now about sports.
Amazing. Well, that was great. So I guess, what were some of the things, and I guess this can be for all of you, what were some of the things you felt like you weren't prepared for when you left post-secondary and you had to learn pretty quickly? I'd love to hear a little bit about that. So why don't we start with you, Quinn, and just what you had no preparation for entering the industry?
Rejection. I feel like rejection is something that you think you're going to be able to handle until you're really faced with it. It can rock your world. I deal with a fair amount of rejection on a daily basis in this industry. Sometimes I'll call 50 people before I get a yes for an interview. Sometimes I'll approach 50 people on the street asking for an opinion question before someone will stop and talk to me. And sometimes you apply for a lot of jobs before you get one. And so I think that having the confidence in yourself that you have the skills that you need and that you will be good at this and this is what you want to do is so important, because there is so much rejection. Rejection doesn't always have to be a bad thing. I think of how it has really shaped me as a person, not just in my professional life, but really my personal life too. You get a harder shell for some things, but you also have a softer side for other things. I feel like my sympathy for people when they're going through things is a little bit different because I know what it's like to be told no. And I just think, I think rejection is one thing that really, I was prepared. I was told, people are going to pick apart your appearance. People aren't going to like how you say things or stories that you cover, but it was a totally different ballgame getting out there in the real world and having people, say no to you. And there's nothing you could really do about it. So being able to overcome that was definitely one of the biggest challenges when I first started out.
And Josh, what about you? What did you have to learn pretty quickly after leaving school?
I think it was just, for me, it was the unknown of, working in the environmental reclamation industry. Was it going to be like school? Was I going to use the things I learned in school? Do I remember everything I need to remember from school? It's scary when you graduate and you need to start looking for a job. It can almost give, someone anxiety knowing that there's nothing guaranteed waiting for you. And there's all the unknowns of what a new job is going to be like. I guess all I could say is in my experience, if you ask lots of questions and you take your job, very seriously, you'll be fine. Even if you have to open up an old textbook and relearn something. But yeah, I mean, the unknowns can be nerve-wracking. But I think, again, if you just take it seriously and try to learn every day and get better every day, you'll be just fine.
Amazing. And Matt, what about you? What did you not know when you entered the industry?
You're kind of prepared for it, but I think for nursing, it was the emotional highs and lows. You can see a lot of really awesome things and you can see a lot of really terrible things. And sometimes in the same day. And, a lot of times you'll have to go into one room and someone will be passing away. You have to, be sad and then go through those. And then in the next room, your patient's going to go home because they just beat cancer. And going up and down all day, it can be a lot. And so I just always tell new nurses to really find an outlet for that. Go for a run, go for a walk, read a book, take a half an hour when you go home. Find someone to vent to, even your coworkers will be good for it. But be ready for it with nursing because you're going to have a day where you go home and cry. I don't care how tough you are,
I can imagine. And Kaylee, what about you?
Yeah, so a couple learning things that I found like entering the career world is you just, like Josh said, have to put that next step forward and keep bettering yourself. For me, I was extremely discouraged just thinking, okay, so I got my exercise science diploma. I'm going to go into business and I'm going to get that diploma. And then I thought, no, look at the world right now. You definitely need a degree. So I just finished with that extra 2 years and did the 2+2 program. And then when I finished, I was expecting this grandiose position to land in my lap, and that's just not the case, and you do have to work towards it. So it's just about enjoying the journey. I was speaking with my business law prof at the time, and he just kind of slowed me down, and he said, it's okay to take those steps and get there. So it may not be exactly how you plan it, but it's definitely meant to be, and that's how you're going to build those skills.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, we're almost out of time, so I'd love to hear from each of you just quickly, what motivates you, whether it's your family, friends, business. So Kaylee, why don't we start with you and just give us what motivates you to keep going?
Yeah, so I'm intrinsically motivated by impacting people. So if I'm doing good and I'm providing activities and services for people they're feeling good, that's huge for me. Just working with all the students that we have, and I was talking about our cancer survivors, just allowing them to have that community group, to have similar people that they could talk with. And throughout the 12-week program, they create these great relationships, and that just allows me to feel so good about the work that we do. Definitely motivated by how I was brought up and just the roots of my family. So yeah, just a lot of internal motivation and those good feelings that keep me going.
Amazing. Josh, what about you? What motivates you every day?
Well, today it's easy to be motivated. I think in the earlier days, my motivation was from my competitiveness more than anything. Anyone who knows me playing in sports, whether it's, volleyball, hockey, baseball, or even, darts. They know I want to win, and maybe a little too much. Our entire family's this way. When I made the decision to come to the business, I treated it like a competition. I wanted the business to win, and I wanted it to be the best. And we still think that way. The thing is, now we have employees who are just as motivated as the owners are, which is very rare. And I know that. It's incredible to see that we have passed on our dream on to them. And if you can't get motivated by watching your employees go above and beyond every day, then something's wrong. But today, I mean, it's easy. Aside from the excitement to see where the full potential of the business could be, I have a family that relies on me, kids that rely on me. And not only that, I have other families that rely on the success of the business. So I don't ever want to be responsible for someone being laid off or having, one of our employees look for another job. That's what motivates me every day.
Amazing. Thank you. Matt, what about you?
The start of my whole journey, it was definitely about my family. I've got 3 beautiful kids and probably the best wife in the world. So that was a kind of a no-brainer there. But, as I go in through nursing, nursing, we get a lot of instant feedback a lot of times about the job we've done. And when you genuinely help somebody with a really hard time in their life, it's quite the feeling, you really feel appreciated. So it makes you keep going.
Great. And Quinn, what about you?
I think I'm really motivated by the fact that I get to learn something new almost every day. So I might not know a lot about one topic, but I know a little bit about a lot of topics. And so with this career, I just never know really what I'm going to be doing the next week, and doing something different every day keeps it fresh and new, and I've been able to do the same thing. The end product looks the same, but getting there is always different. And so it's really motivating when you get to go out and talk to people who are passionate. It's addictive when you get to talk to people who really care about what they're doing. I mean, I can talk about, biochemistry and then by the end of the day, I'm super excited about biochemistry, even though I had no idea what it was going into it, because I talked to somebody like Josh, who's really passionate about it. So it's one of those things where you're always learning and you have to adapt. And I'm really motivated too by getting to know my community. One thing with this job is you're always going out and about, and you are meeting people, and you start to really appreciate sort of your background, where you come from, where you live, the people that you interact with daily. And so it's just, for me, I do, I cover some court, I cover some crime and some tragedy, and then I also get to cover a lot of really joyous things and fun things, and so just being able to learn and adapt. I just think I wake up every morning that I'm so grateful that I have a job where I'm challenged and I'm fulfilled.
Well, you guys are all doing incredible things. And thank you so much for sharing your journeys and your stories and what motivates you and all of that. I think it's really important for our next generation of students and graduates to hear from the people that are actively working in industries. I think when we hear it from our peers, sometimes we can appreciate the message a little bit more. So thank you guys so much. I just want to take a quick moment to shout out Josh specifically. Josh won our Rising Star Award this year at the college. So out of all of our alumni, he got nominated and was selected as the Rising Star. And so we didn't get to celebrate the Honoring Excellence in the way we had hoped to in the spring, but I just wanted to
Zoom party.
celebrate that here.
Yeah.
Congratulations. We're so excited. Again, thank you guys so much for being here today. It was great to hear from you all, and I hope that you guys continue to do amazing things in your career. And thank you for everyone who came.
Thank you. And congratulations.
Thanks, Stephanie. Thanks, you guys. This was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And I'm going to sign off, and have a great day.